Many Kenyans have asked me about ownership of firearm by civilians. I will answer you holistically. Covering each and every aspect of it. But if I were to advise you one-on-one, I would advise you not to own a firearm, including don't even own legally. Don't own legally. Yes, your security circumstances may demand you to be guarded by a firearm. It is quicker, safer, and cheaper if you went to the police station, to the OCPD. If you went to the OCPD and filled in a form that is called private hire of a police officer. Sincerely speaking, even I, with all my training, with all my knowledge, if it reaches a time when I need to be guarded by a firearm, I would rather go and fill in the forms at the police station or the OCPD for private hire of police officers. Especially in Kenya. I don't know about other countries. By the way, apart from neighboring countries, Tanzania, Uganda, Somalia, and Ethiopia, where I have entered those countries in less than a few kilometers, I have never gone to any other country. But in Kenya, I would advise you, free of charge, that if you are convinced that you need to be guarded by a firearm, better go fill in the forms for private use of a police officer. Pay that. It is very cheap, very easy, and very quick as compared to, and I underline the word, as compared to you seeking for the license and getting the firearm. How do we get police to do your, to be your, for a lack of a better word, how do you do when you want the police to be your bodyguard? It is very easy. Just go to the nearest police OCPD, tell him you want police officers. He will ask you how many you want. In fact, the vetting in this instance is slightly, is not slightly, it is by far very, very easy. It is almost automatic, or it is almost automatic as compared to the other one, where you will take 10 hours. The other one you can take 10 months. But even this one, which you take 10 hours to get clearance, you find that success rate is 90 something. But this other one, of you personally owning a firearm, will take 10 months, and the chances of succeeding are, or failing, the chances of failing are in their 90 something percent. So I keep on insisting that should you really want to be guarded by a gun, the best way is just to go to the nearest police station. You will be given a form. You'll say, I need, let us even take your compound. Your compound has 2 watchmen, isn't it? There is the night guard and the day guard. Go to the police station, say that you want your compound to be guarded by a gun, by a police constable with a G3. You will be given a form. They'll tell you how much you'll start paying until you don't want to pay more. You'll you'll be guarded until the time you feel either you can't afford because it is not as cheap as having a Masai guarding your gate. You'll be guarded until that such time that you'll be guarded into such a time that you cannot afford, or the risk is gone. There's times when the risk, you may find the risk has not gone, or the combination of the two. You look at the risk and you look at the expenses and find that the expenses, it is too much in your pocket as compared to the risk. So that is the easiest way. You have seen people in private functions. You have seen people during weddings. You have seen even banks. Even the banks, they have APs there. It is just a hire. It is the certain amount that you pay for that for the given time. So that is something that is called private use. And you should know that that police officer who is guarding your place is basically a police officer. And just like, when you have a private security company guarding you, you have a private security company guarding you, you can give certain instructions, to the guards, which you cannot give the police. For example, when I've seen that in private security, where you tell the guard, niachie rungu, go and buy sugar there. You cannot tell the police, niachie bunduki, uende ufanya what, no, no. You can, okay, you can make your own arrangements for the police officer not to be there for 30 minutes or something, but he will have to, or she will have to move with that gun. But you see, in private security, the watchman can give you the club to stay with it, isn't it? So there are certain conditions. And then when he is guarding at your place or offering you private security, and a crime happens in the vicinity, he will go and arrest that person. Plus, most important, don't think that now you have a police officer guarding you, you can commit any crime within that time. For example, while he's there, you cannot come with a sack full of bang and whatever and say, no, you have ceased being a police officer for the duration that is you. So, as I've been saying for the last few minutes, that I'd rather you go to the police station, either police station or the AP camp. The AP, they have that section that guards the banks. You'll just say what that you want. That is how the banks do. The banks sit down with them and say that we require so many police officers in two ways. We need the armed police officers at the near the banking halls. We also need the armed police officers in the cash in transit. As I've said, it is easier and better. And even me today, if I really wanted to have a gun guarding me, I'd rather go to the police and fill in those forms, pay for that money. But then you may want to have you yourself a firearm. I'll come to that, but I'll say that as time goes on, it becomes a bit of a challenge. It becomes a bit of a challenge to have a firearm license in Kenya for a civilian. And when I say a civilian, I mean two things. I mean a person like you and me who is not currently under the disciplined services. You could have been like me. You could have been a member of the disciplined services, but you are no longer working for them. That is, you get a license for a civilian firearm. Even people, even people who are working in the disciplined forces, they may need their own firearms in their capacity as civilians. Now, maybe I have to explain there. I have to explain there where a member of the disciplined services has to have his own or her own firearm. Uh, the firearms that are being used by members of the disciplined forces are licensed to the service commander. For example, the CDF, the CDF is the licensed owner of all firearms under the Kenya Defense Forces. And for you to use a firearm which is licensed to the CDF, he has conditions that he has given for those firearms. He has conditions. The same applies to the Inspector General with all firearms licensed to the National Police Service. The same applies to the Commissioner General of Prisons, uh, the Commander General of both the Kenya Wildlife Services and Kenya Forest. The overall has a license. And when the overall has a license, he or she has ways, regulations that he or she has given to the junior people. If you are using a police firearm, there are certain regulations. There are many. Some of them are not necessarily important for you who is not in the service to know. But let me tell you one of the services. For example, when I was working with the police in Mandera, I could not take a gun in Mandera and go all the way with it to my Webuye home. Unless, of course, my seniors knew and approved. Another thing is once a week, the gun has to be checked with the sergeant to make sure that you still have the firearm and the firearm is still in the working condition and the bullets that you took, you still have them all just for normal inspection. So it means that if you have a government firearm, and let's say you work in Mandera and you want to go to your home area in Webuye, then you should know that there are restrictions. There are also restrictions over usage of the gun for a long time without it being. So there are so many reasons that you may want your own firearm, whatever. So yes, we have people who are members of the disciplined forces who have civilian uh, firearms certificate. We also have people, especially in the disciplined forces, you don't expect somebody of a senior. Let's say, for example, members of the flying squad. Members of the flying squad, he leaves services, his life will be still in for some time, depending on various checklists. There is one who may retire or cease being a member of the flying squad, and after he has ceased being a member of he would even say that on the day he retires, he no longer needs firearms. On the day he retires, he no longer needs firearms. This way, you find that, and there are others who may retire, and 10, 15 years after he retires, he still needs the firearm. So we have members of the security services. For example, for lack of a better example, I'd not be shocked if Major General Hussein still has a firearm. I'll not be shocked if General Mahmoud Mohammed, former CGS, still has such people, and even people to a lower level. people like, what can I say? There are very many, even junior people to that level of constable. It is not the rank here that determines, it is the department and the section that he used to work in. That the department and section that he used to work in determines whether he or she will be offered firearm. I may have been your senior in service. You may even have been reporting to me. But having been in contact with crooks or coming from areas that are very dangerous, so it is case to case determination. Uh, when you have a firearm, before we go now to the things that are required when you're applying for that, when you when you have the firearm, kindly remember that even if you hide, how many secrets can you hide? How many secrets can you hide? One day or one time, crooks may know that you have a firearm. So it means that when you have a firearm, you have made crooks be interested in that firearm. And there are consequences for crooks wanting that. The consequences are the following. Starting with you, the crooks may want to harm you because they'll not come to you and just say, tafadhali nipatie hiyo mguu ya kuku. No. In most cases, in almost all the cases, they will leave you dead or permanently maimed. And you see, the government is very funny that when the crooks get the gun from you, whether you are dead or maimed or anything, the government will tend to believe that there is something behind that. So the best thing is, as I said, it is better you just have those. It is better that you just have the police. You hire police for civilian use. Now after talking to you so much and I've not convinced you not to look for a firearm, you want to have a firearm license. There were times when it was very easy. It was in the 70s. Is it 75 or 76? When the then Minister for Wildlife, Tourism and Wildlife, Matthew Sogutu, banned game hunting. It was in 1976 or 75 when Matthew Sogutu, the then Minister for Wildlife, Game and Wildlife, banned game hunting. From that time onwards, owning a gun by a civilian became a bit of a challenge. It became a bit of a challenge, such that there is a stage called Tasker, and then there is a NAT office, where NAT office and Ronald Ngala forms an X. There is a shop there, supermarket, a big supermarket. That used to be a place where they used to sell guns. And when we were school kids, we would pass there and you see all types of guns. So you'd go there with your license. To them, so long as you are licensed, you just they sell you the gun that is there. My father also had a civilian. He was a police officer. He also had a civilian firearm. But as I said, most of the people who used to have firearms those days used to you used to use them for game hunting. And again, you find that when you're applying for a license for any company, for anything, let me tell you, I have applied for if you check on the list of registered company limited in Kenya, my name appears among the directors of some of these companies. You will find that when you're applying for a license of a company or if you're applying for a license of the gun, be careful with the information that you give. Be very careful with the information you give, because the information that you give may disqualify you in future from, you may be given the license today, but it will reach a time in future when it will be declared that that license is invalid. For example, you applied in those years, you applied for a license and said that you wanted the gun to be mostly used in game hunting. And then the Minister for Wildlife and Tourism, Matthews Oguto, comes and bans wildlife hunting, game hunting. It means that your license will be declared invalid. So when you're applying for anything, please be careful with what you apply when you're explaining what you need. Now, I've tried to convince you not to take a license. You have decided to take. First of all, you have to be eligible age-wise. Anybody. We have just learned that now if you're under 21, you are not supposed to take alcohol. Also, kindly understand that even before that law came, previously, if you are under 21 years, kindly know that it is very hard for you to, no, the limit is you have to be 21 and over. So if you are less than 21, don't even try. When you are 21 and over, you get the forms from the OCS. When I was in service, we used to, those who wanted used to get it from the OCPD, but now you get it from your nearest OCS. Of course, when you get the forms from the OCS, you fill in. The OCS will take it to the OCS. It will go the way to chief firearms licensing officer. So you have to be 21 and over. You have to give the copy of your ID, national ID. If you are non-Kenyan, it is a challenge there. You have also to produce the DCI certificate of good conduct. You have to produce a DCI certificate of good. There are two things which are very important here: the DCI certificate of good conduct, plus also a psychiatrist clearance. This means if you have been following the meetings that if you have been following the meetings that uh, Kipchumba Murkomen has been having, you'll find that many OCSs are complaining that they have police officers within them with psychological problems. So these people, um, the OCS were requesting that those with psychological problems, be removed in service on medical condition. You know, in the government, you may know that one of your constables has a psychiatric problem, but you can do nothing. So he can go and take a gun and shoot people around. Eh? That is the law. Now, when we come back to applying for a civilian firearm, you have to have a psychiatric clearance. You have to be tax compliance. You have to be a tax compliance, and you have to release a 6 months bank statement. To release a 6 months bank statement, which is you have to prove evidence of being financially stable. You have to have proof of a financial stable. Why? Because if you are not financially stable, you may use that. You know what I mean. You also have to have a valid reason for firearm ownership. You have to convince them. And I said, Kenya, is it 50 million? We have 50 million reasons. So I can't tell you that this is but you have to convince the person. For example, you have to tell the person that your nature of work dictates that you have a firearm. Your nature of work has to dictate you have a firearm. The place where you stay. And if it is your nature of work, you have to convince them that you must work there. And you have to convince them that you don't have to work elsewhere. Yeah? Okay, if the work you are doing is dangerous, why don't you look for another job? So you have to convince them why you must do that work, why you must do that work, and not any other work. And then you have to convince them that the residence where you stay is a security risk, and you have to convince them why you can't move out of. So there, each and every case is handled differently. Yes, you have. I said you have the DCI certificate of good conduct. Certificate of good conduct. It means that you just go like now. You just go to the nearest DCI office. You fill in the forms. You are told to come. How many Uduma Center? But then DCI have a section called CRIB, Crime Research and Intelligence Bureau. They have to look at your background. The fact that you have a certificate of good conduct does not mean that we have somebody in Kenya's history. I want to mention two Kenyans who I want you to understand when I say DCI will have to carry further background. We have somebody who was called Peter. No, he was called Pius Kibathi Thuo. Pius Kibathi Thuo, but his nickname was Mark Twist. He used to be our neighbor in Madaraka Estate, and he's somebody who was in committee, a gangster. But on the day that JM Karaoke died, he was released for the purpose of the JM issue. So these are crooks who are he's here, but then there is another person. Was it in Nakuru or Eldoret? A person who was very clever. I want to tell Kenyans this. This fellow was very good in organizing bank robberies. He even the time when he died, he never handled a gun, but he knew how to organize these people. He would call the crooks, he would organize for them, he'd even give them money. He'd say, go to such and such a place, you'll get somebody to sell you a gun. From there, go and steal this bank, go and do whatever. But this fellow does not even leave his house. This is the fellow who was killed, and even up to today, that was a CID job. That was not our job. He was killed, and he was buried. There was a judge, there was a British, an expatriate judge who was handling the case. There were three teams who took him there. The first team saw him being killed. The second team went and buried him in a public cemetery. The third team came with a person, a drunk. Somebody was crossing the road and he was drunk and he was hit and run. The body of the hit and run was placed there. I exchanged with that. If you remember that case, and then that judge ran out, and then he resigned and went to another country where he became the chief justice. So we have those people who organize for crimes, and you may, for the court to convict you, the court has to convict you beyond reasonable doubt. But if you are so clever that you know how to hide and whatever, the DCI may have noticed you and kept quiet. They have been so. If you are a very good planner in crimes na unajificha, know that the DCI background check will disqualify you even if you have a certificate of good conduct. There is when you are going there, when you are going to apply the first time, there are those kind of psychological tests that you'll have given to the OCS and whatever. But when it reaches the time when the firearms bureau have got to give you, they are now interviewing you. They will come with their own psychologist, because we know a doctor. You go to a doctor. Where was it? Yeah, after leaving the police service, I applied for a number of security jobs in one of a few companies. I remember going to see a doctor who asked me, "What is it?" I said, I've gotten a job somewhere and they need a doctor's letter." Said, "Congratulations. Do you have, I don't know, was it 500? Do you have 500 shillings?" I said, "Yes." I gave him 500 shillings. He typed a very good letter that he has done a thorough medical check on me and found that I was physically fit. So, yes, when you are applying for a civilian firearm, you will have your own psychological doctor's letter. But when you are now going through the vetting system so as you get the license, the government will come with their own psychologist who may or may not agree with your psychologist. And just know that when the two don't agree, uh, you your psychologist doctor will, his report will not count. Then there is also the ballistic tests on the firearm you are going to have and such things. The Firearms Licensing Board is the overall responsible for training. You have to go undergo a training for that type of gun. Now, this we have civilian ranges. We even have police ranges. I remember when I was in service, there are times when there is a certain day of the week that civilians would request. Those days they used to, but nowadays I think you have to hire that range for the period that you'll be practicing. So after you have been given the firearm license, the board will, before giving you the license, they'll have to make sure you are trained. They don't give you the firearm and then you train later. No, you train and later you have to undergo training for the type of the firearm that you are taking. They'll also give you renewal timelines, whereby I can't know how long it is, but I think, can we just say they can be telling you that to be renewing every once in a year. You have to be compliant of all laws and regulations in the Firearms Act. I've talked about vetting, which you'll have to go. Uh, you know, first time applicants, you have to apply in person at the Firearms Bureau. You have to apply in person at the Firearms Bureau if it is first time. But renewal, we have regional and even maybe county offices where you can renew your license. You have to undergo, you know, you can be licensed today while you are physically fit. But after 2 to 3 years, maybe you are not physically fit. Hmm? A person like the chief inspector, you remember the AP chief inspector, whom the grenade, okay, we call it grenade, but it is a tear gas, whom a tear gas canister exploded on his hands. A week before that, if he were a civilian, he was qualified to have the fire, to apply or even have a firearm license. But now that he's physically challenged, it is not possible for him to have a license because of his physical whatever. Physical also means mental. Physical also means mental. And other conditions that people may not know, they may also include financial. Financial. Yes, if you are declared bankrupt by a court of law, what does being declared a bankrupt by a court of law mean? It means you are so broke and huwezi lala njaa ukiwa na bunduki, eh? Such things. The other thing is people change. People change. You may even be saved. You may even be mtoto misa. But as time goes on, and even when you have a gun, some shetani thing may come up. So every time you have to be re-evaluated And the law just says that when the Firearms Bureau decides to withdraw a firearm, they can do that with or without reasons. So when they do that, no questions.